Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 in our chats with Emily as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are in the Johnson edition. We turn out a poem 795. Her final summer was it, published in 1891 and called at length. I'm going to ask you at the end of our conversation here why maybe publishers of this poem would have called it at length. Emily obviously never calling it that. The problem, of course, is the question of who the her in this final poem is. Her final summer, was it? That is to say, it was her final summer, but the argument's going to be made, we did not know it in our reading of this poem. Now, Emily, the great poet of death, will mention death in 135 of her poems explicitly. Interestingly, the word stupidity is used only once in all of her 1,775 poems, and it will be here. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net, down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily, our playlist. I'm hopeful that you have already worked through our set of introductory comments as well as the preceding 794 poems. We just finished with 794. A drop fell on the apple tree. Now, the point of this poem is not that somebody died, but that all of the people who were living around Emily, or whoever it is that was dying, didn't realize that she was in fact in the final moments of her life. Notice she'll say it this way. Her final summer, was it? And yet we guessed it not, if tender industriousness pervaded her. We thought a further force of life developed from within. When death lit all the shortness up, it made the hurry plain. We wondered at our blindness when nothing was to see but her cicera guidepost at our stupidity. When duller than our dullness, the busy darling lay. So busy was she finishing, so leisurely were we. By the way, notice this: we guessed, we thought, we wondered, and then the last word of the poem is we. In this poem, Emily invites you in. Again, Chats with Emily is the title of our series for a number of reasons. But notice in this poem, she brings you in and she says, none of us knew that in fact this was the final moments. She says her final summer. Notice summer capitalized, so it can be literal or obviously it can be metaphoric. Was it? And yet we guessed it not. We didn't know. We didn't have any way to know, right? If tender industriousness pervaded her, comma, we thought a further force of life developed from within. And I think that from within is the key of this poem. Developed from within. When death lit all the shortness up, again, death mentioned in 135 of her poems directly. When death lit all the shortness up, it made the hurry plain. In other words, it's only after the fact that we go, oh, okay. She was doing all of this because this was the end of her life, made plain. We wondered at our blindness. Can we please appreciate that Emily's great hero is Milton, who went blind. And Emily herself struggled with some eyesight issues and periodically had some blindness problems herself. When nothing was to see but her Sakarya guidepost, that is to say, Sakarya marble, right? The headstone guidepost, at our stupidity. Now, stupidity, of course, is the key word. And, guys, she only uses this word once in all of her poetry, and it's here. Stupidity. In other words, we did not know, we did not understand what was really going on. When duller than our dullness, the busy darling lay. Now, her use of the word darling is fascinating. She uses it here. She'll use it in 858 when she'll say, this chasm sweet upon my life, I mention it to you. When sunrise through a fissure drop, the day must follow too. If we demur, its gaping sides disclose us to our tomb. Ourselves am lying straight wherein the favorite of doom. When it has just contained a life, then darling it will close, and yet so bolder every day, so turbulent it grows. I'm tempted half to stitch it up with a remaining breath. I should not miss it yielding, though to him it would be death. And so I bear it big about my burial before a life quite ready to depart can harass me no more. And then we'll see it one more time in 868. They ask but our delight, the darlings of the soil, and grant us all their countenance for a penurious smile. Now, we don't know in this poem, we don't know who this darling was, the busy darling. lay. Notice the repetition of so. So busy was she, finishing. So leisurely were we. Some have pointed out that this use of the word finishing reminds us that one of the last things Jesus Christ says on the cross is it is finished, and of course makes us in this poem think about the fact that the disciples, the followers of Christ, did not fully appreciate or understand that they were living through the very final moments of Christ's life. And I think that's the point here. Never take a pal for granted, I think is our point. Never take a darling for granted, to use the language of the poem. That is to say, we never know when those who are closest to us could be lost to us. The to be observation here, well, obviously it's the we, isn't it? It's the we guessed, we thought, we wondered, and then the poem ends with were we, right? At 3a, well, obviously all of the other death poems. I can't help but read this poem, though, and think of John Donne's Holy Sonnet 10, Death Be Not Proud. Think about the title that was given to this poem when it was published in 1891, not by Emily, but by the publishers, At Length. In other words, it only was at the end of her life, that, and after the passing, that we realized, oh, that was the last summer. And then finally, to own a poem like this, when was a time someone was busy and you didn't understand that they were in fact getting to the end of something or a project, or maybe even their life itself, and in that regards, you maybe took for granted the very thing that was so amazing about them. I hope Emily's challenging you. Thank you.